In just a moment here, we're going to check in with Brian Hoops with Midwest Market Solutions and get his opinion on what's going on over here in the grain market. First of all, let's get you up to date on where the corn market stands at this point. Right now, the corn, and by the way, this got started off to a weaker start. December corn down 3, make that 394 3/4. So now it's 394 1/2. So we are getting pretty close to that 393 1/4 low. Penny and a quarter away from it. July's down 1 1/4 at 414 3/4. Brian, what do you think? Is this something to get alarmed about? Is this just a healthy market correction taking a breath? Or is this maybe some result of lack of sales?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of everything that you mentioned, John. We had that high posted Sunday night. We're correcting off of that. It's been a fairly volatile day, or actually last several days of trade in this corn market. Down sharply following the supply-demand report, up sharply the next day. We may consolidate here a little bit. Some weakness is likely to come into play as we get harvest activity and harvest pressure ramping up this week. A lot of producers are moving some corn into some elevators as we've been talking to clients over the last several days. They've taken advantage of some either tight basis levels or some ideas that maybe free drying is being offered. But one way or another, some of the ethanol plants, elevators are getting their product moved, and I think that's pressuring this corn market and probably will for the next several sessions.
Brian, we had an overnight sale this morning, and it was of soybeans. Now, this overnight sale was for unknown destinations, and it was in the amount of 142,579 metric ton. Kind of an interesting number, but it's unknown destinations. I shouldn't say usually. Sometimes that leads to China. Does it matter who it's sold to, or is this a pretty good number?
Well, it's a good number, good step in the right direction. It's very likely, as you mentioned, going to end up China. Other possibility is Mexico, but I think it eventually will likely get changed over to China. It's been an interesting soybean market, and I was talking with some clients this morning about how this pattern is developing. We're seeing weakness in the last couple evenings, but we start to see some buying interest in and trim those losses. We were 5 cents lower by the end of Sunday night session into Monday morning. We rallied during the day session. That's a sign that the funds are stepping into this market and buying any weakness, and they're actually building a somewhat long position as we look at the latest commitment of traders report. So we are seeing a lot of fund activity in the soybean market, and that's what's given us the strength.
That right now in that November contract, we're down a half. We're a nickel off of the low, and in fact, we're only 2.5 cents away from the high. 940 is where we're at right now. Let's also look at wheat. Wheat, on the other hand, here for December, Chicago is down 4 pennies, 507. Kansas City wheat for December contract is down 3 1/4. That new crop July down 2 3/4 at 453 1/2. Brian, tell you what, we're going to take a little break here and come back and want to get everybody up to date on the livestock trade and get your input there as well. That's straight ahead. Stay with us here on the Market. Okay, let's start here in the live cattle market. Been a lot of talk about how this market has really rallied. Let's see if we're still rallying here today. We started out the day, anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 cents higher, and now we're on the lower side. October down 30, 110.33 after a high of 111 even. December fats are down 42 at 113.03. It's an interesting number. We'll keep that in mind. We'll go back and talk to Brian about that here in just a moment. November feeders down 32 at 145.75. January feeders down 40 at 141.82. But the hog market still continues its rally. December up $1.97 at 71.10. February up $1.38 at 78.63. A little bit of a pullback over here in the cattle market, Brian.
Yeah, a little bit of a setback. We're definitely due for something. We've had such a strong run in this cattle market. December posted a low back in early September around 98, and now we're over almost 114. And so we've had just an incredible run with very little setbacks. Definitely could see some sort of a pullback, kind of relieve some of that bought technical consideration, but boy, this market from a cash standpoint remains very strong, technically pushing to some new highs yesterday. So overall, the health of this cattle market is pretty solid. Show list numbers are down from last week, and if we see a correction here, it's probably not going to be a very deep one.
We're sure inviting a few buyers back over here to this hog complex today with a little bit of strength. Is that on hopes that maybe the talks between the United States and China may yield something along the lines of being able to sell some of this excess pork we have?
Yeah, I think they're certainly optimistic that is going to be the end result, that when China says they have agreed to buy 40 to 50 billion dollars worth of U.S. ag products, that pork is going to be one of the main contributors to that package, that China is going to be needing pork, be needing U.S. soybeans, and maybe some cotton as well, and those commodities should be beneficiaries of that trade agreement.
All right. Any other thoughts on the protein complex then?
Well, interesting chart pattern. December hogs are touching its downtrend line here as we speak with this big rally. So if we can close this area or maybe even a little higher, it would be a close above it, and that may invite even more technical and fund-related buying.
Sounds good, Brian. Sure appreciate it. Brian Hoops here, Midwest Market Solutions. He's the president there. He's based in Springfield, Missouri. I want to bring you up to date on the finished cattle numbers. These numbers are provided to us by CZ Cattle Market Analytics in Amarillo, Texas. Ed Serwin provides these for us. And here's where we stand this past week. Choice, this is the box beef trade. Let's look at the finished cattle numbers. As okay, so we'll go on with this. The total load count is 7,213 head. We were up 295 on the loads. The upfront sales, well, they were up 423 at 1,740, so a little bit of an increase there. Export sales, they also increased by 18. They stood at 907 this last time around in this weekly summary here, and the formula sales were up 44 at 35.57, and so a little bit of optimism over here in this box beef summary. And again, we want to say thank you very much to Ed Serwin for providing those numbers.
All right, as always, thanks for keeping us up to date.